All right, this is the March video chat with fans, and I just had the previous video was all about the game campaign because I had a bunch of updates and announcements in it. Well, these will be going up at about the same time, and now we're just gonna talk about just random questions that people submitted, primarily not about the crew or the game campaign, or unless there's just some real extra stuff I missed. So, oh no, okay, yeah, this is the April video chat. Thank you, chat. Like, yeah, you can see how well my brain's operating lately. Please, oh yeah, please give us a date. Yeah, that's right. This is the 420 chat. I, yeah, I realized that. Yeah, this I might have to rate this differently on the YouTube ratings depending how what direction the chat goes. So, let's see. Yeah, because it will not. Might have to check the drug paraphernalia box when I put this up. So, let's see. So yeah, I'll just jump into the questions then. Let's see. Yeah. So the first one is, how did you beat the sun level in Baldies? I'm keeping that a secret until the next follow-up. I'll absolutely have it in there. I haven't had time to work on it because this campaign completely hijacked everything else I was doing. But I feel like I would have a lot of regret if I didn't do it. So, sorry. It's still part of the plan. I was hoping to have that out by now. It was the original plan. So, oh well. Let's see. Next question. Say we discovered another planet with similar ecosystem to Earth, and you were responsible for designing the first capital. What would you base the city design on? A real-life city? A fictional one? I mean, I don't know. I don't know enough about architecture to know exactly like which style I would go for. I think I would not. I think I would want cars kind of like really out of the way. It's like sort of like central lanes, kind of away from everything else. And if you want to get somewhere, you have to kind of get out of your car and walk there. I think that would make the city a lot nicer. And just because it popped into my head, I was remembering, yeah, I guess it was modeled after Rome, but in Star Trek Nemesis, the beginning of it, they show you Romulus, and I remember thinking that looked pretty cool. So maybe we make it like Romulus. So, let's see. What was the most unexpected moment you had that caught you completely off guard while recording a Game Dungeon episode? I'm not sure, but whatever it was, it's in the episodes. So you can decide for yourself. Like, if anything that just completely blindsided me, yeah, I would always put that in the videos because it was just like, I figure if I was watching a video and that happened to the person doing it, I would want to see that. So I remember clans kind of catching me off guard. One big one might have been Armed and Delirious. Once I really clicked in me, no, the answer really is to trial and error this for like 15 minutes straight. Like, because I was just like, what? Like, because I assumed, okay, there's going to be some crazy logic thing that makes no sense, or I'll never know how they figure this out. And it's like, no, you're just supposed to trial and error it. And this is way too many combinations for a trial and error. Usually if you have a trial and error in one of those games, you have, I think like usually the maximum I see is like maybe like 16 different combinations, or let's see, what? Yeah, or maybe 8. Like usually you have like, I've seen a lot of games will have like 4 switches and you have to like guess which combination of it should be, and you just have to trial and error it. But that's usually about as bad as it gets in most games. Whereas that one was just, yeah, I'm talking about the sticky keys and Polaris Snowcross. Yeah, that might have been one of them. That one caught. I was not ready for that. But yeah, it's in the videos, so you decide. Nothing, or yeah, we had a blue screen on Armed and Delirious also, or in Contraption Zack, where I enter the next room and then then the audio just starts spitting garbage at me, and then I just start screaming. Yeah. Ah, ah! Like, and it's like, like so. Yeah. So yeah, I can't think of any I left out because that would. In fact, in some cases, I might have tried to recreate them if they weren't recorded for some reason. So, let's. Okay, I already answered that. Oh, are you surprised at the amount of visibility your campaign has garnered? I guess a little bit. I mean, I knew it would get bigger. I've certainly gotten way more news coverage than I expected, but to be honest, I'm almost not even thinking about it. Like, we could have had a tenth of the impact, and I'd probably be going similarly, but just kind of more troubled about it. And I've just been like just focused on how do we get this step done? How do we get this step done? You know, are there any angles we're missing? Is there stuff we need to prepare for? It's just all been in service of trying to make it happen. So it's almost like it's not even registering to me to some degree that like, oh, okay, this is getting on lots of game news sites I've never been on or anything like that. So it's like my brain just almost doesn't care. It's all just like accomplish the mission. That's all my brain is thinking, really. So, do you have anything weird that you refuse to throw away? Not that I can really think of. I mean, usually if I'm not throwing something away, it has some aesthetic or practical value to me. So I can't think of anything that weird. I had to jettison a lot of stuff when I moved to Poland. I mean, I could only take what I could carry with me with like I think like 2 suitcases and like a backpack or something, and cargo pants. So that caused me to shed an awful lot, you know. So I'm saying I inspired a modder to make a Half-Life 2 mod called Alternus, and they're showing alternate routes for a lot of Half-Life 2. And it's saying, is there a limit to how many alternative paths you can take and how much it can affect the game that has them if handled poorly? Well, yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of games where you can get lost and not be sure which way to go. I think that's something that like really depends on the game design, you know, where I've never played it, but I've kind of heard Journey might be an example, like a good example of that, where you just kind of pick a direction and go, and then different things happen. Like from what I've heard, again, that's one of mine I should play, but I haven't gotten around to yet. But yeah, you just wander a direction and different things happen based if you go that direction. That's a great concept if you can do it. If it's something where like it doesn't really matter, I mean, I don't mind, but then it can backfire a little bit if it just feels like a little too catered. But you can do that in an organic way also, where like say you have just like a general objective where you're going towards, and then you just have like a city in front of you or a lot of forest, and it's not exactly which way to go, so you just figure it out. That can be a good method. What I'm thinking is not so good is when you have like an obvious walkway, and you have an obvious path next to that, and an obvious one above that, and it doesn't really matter which one you take, but the game's acting like this is a big deal. But on the other hand, if there's a lot of variety, if you take one path over the other, that can be pretty cool. So, but yeah, you don't want so many the player gets lost, but it's not necessarily a big deal having more than one path. But I think for me personally, I think the biggest benefit of that is like, say you really love the environment of the game and you just want more, and then you want to replay it. And this is like an excuse to get more fresh content of what you've already played, and you just want to see even more of it, and see everything and kind of explore it. Then yeah, I think it's good for that. So, but yeah, it can backfire too. So it just varies. Let's see. They're saying they enjoy the rants or tangents in the Game Dungeon episodes. Other creators would most likely cut them out of the script, but you aren't afraid to follow the thought and see where it goes. Was that always intentional, or did you start that by accident? Um, Keeping them was pretty much always intentional. The planning them, no, that they just it would just emerge because I'll be writing it, then I have this thought, then this thought. Well, okay, yeah, let's just throw it in there. It sounds interesting. So, and I realized, yeah, I don't care if I'm getting off topic. Like, I mean, if it was boring, then I'd care, you know. I don't want to bore people getting off topic, but yeah, so it's intentional keeping them, not intentional go off base. It just happens. So, what's your favorite Lovecraftian story that wasn't written by H.P. Lovecraft himself? I have no idea. I guess I haven't read ones that weren't by him. And they're recommending A Colder War by Charles Stross. Okay, I can check it out. So I'm trying to... What? I'm trying to think, like, if, you know, stuff that's not books that I've seen that I really liked. I'm trying to think of, like, the favorite Lovecraftian one. I don't know. I feel like a lot of them, there's always something off. Like that. I'm just thinking, well, this could be better. Well, this could be better. But I could be drawing a blank. Okay, well, The Mist was really good. The movie version. I haven't read the original. The Mist was really solid for a Lovecraftian that Lovecraft never wrote. Yeah, it's not Lovecraft, but actually right now I'm reading When I Eat, The Massacre of Mankind, and it's a sequel written to War of the Worlds, not written by, oh geez, was it H.G. Wells or Verns? Jules Verns. I think it was H.G. Wells. Man, I told you my brain's fried. And it's pretty good. Like, this would actually make a pretty good movie, and it was sanctioned by the It was sanctioned by, like, the family of the estate. Okay, I got going crazy. Is it Wells or War of the Worlds? Why does it take this H.G. Wells? Okay, yeah. I don't know why I was thinking Jules Verns. By the family of the Wells estate, that was the intellectual property. Yeah, it's pretty solid. It would make a good movie. And it's meant to be authentic to the original, too. So it takes place 13 years later after the original. So in 1920 is when it takes place. And so you're getting kind of like an alternate history timeline with it. Like World War I has not happened in the same way under this. And like the women's suffrage movement got kind of shut down because of the Martian invasion. And it's interesting. So yeah, it's not exactly Lovecraftian, but it's a similar kind of tone. Yeah, it made me think, like, I wonder if there's been like a period authentic version of War of the Worlds, because I think there was one like in the 60s, and then there was like the Spielberg one in the 2000s. It would be interesting to see like a period authentic movie version of War of the Worlds, you know. So, but no, the sequel, Massacre of Mankind, I haven't finished it yet, but yeah, it would clearly make a great movie, like, you know, kind of like a summer blockbuster kind of thing, you know. Okay, some more questions. Let's see. Chat. Blurt out your answers in the chat on this one. What's an example of a game that captured lightning in a bottle for you that other games have failed at? So in other words, other ones tried, but none of the others got it. My obvious answer off the top of my head would be Deus Ex. I haven't seen anything quite like it. Let's see. Okay, chat's saying Torchlight and Papers, Please. Yeah, Torchlight was okay. I mean, I don't know. I felt like Torchlight was more like kind of like Diablo Jr. So, there was Donkey Kong Jr. That's how Torchlight felt for. Somebody's saying Minecraft. I don't know. I mean, there might be some pretty good Minecraft clones. Others are saying, okay, somebody's saying Subnautica. Yeah, maybe. But I guess the thing is, like, I feel like in order to qualify, you need a game that's attempted to do what the original did, Because I was going to say maybe Dungeon Siege, but I don't even know if any games really tried to be Dungeon Siege, the next Dungeon Siege. So I don't think that would count. One that kind of came to mind for me was Supreme Commander, where there have been attempts, like, I think the closest there's that weird kind of K0 game, but that was kind of missing a lot of the extra stuff to it. I might be getting the name wrong. But an obvious one that attempted it was Ashes of the Singularity. And I think that's a good game, like Ashes of the Singularity. But and the thing is, I think there's a lot of room for improvement on Supreme Commander. I think it's an amazing game, but yeah, I can see some stuff they could have done better for sure in a sequel. And I feel like nothing ever quite hit that high for me, at least. But okay, so the chat's saying a bunch of stuff. Darkest Dungeon, Outer Wilds, Mountain Blade Warband, The Binding of Isaac, Gothic. Well, I mean, Gothic 2 is pretty good, but I guess they mean like games that are outside the Gothic. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there really isn't anything quite like Gothic because that seems like a formula you could hit, And again, Gothic's another game where there's plenty to improve upon, especially with the combat. So I'm saying Outer Wilds wholeheartedly. But what other games have attempted Outer Wilds is the question. Okay, someone's saying Team Fortress 2. Another one's saying Everspace 2. Someone's saying Half-Life, Endor, Portal. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's that new one that's Half-Life setting-ish. Oh, I forget the name of it. Something with AB. I forget. But with Portal, I don't know. Yeah, I guess sort of, though. I thought the games Cube and Cube 2, QUBE, were pretty good, though the story wasn't as strong as Portal. I'm scrolling up a bit. Okay, so Pathologic 2, Talos Principle, Dragon's Dogma. Yeah, so I was saying Dragon's Dogma is kind of like Gothic. Yeah, that actually was popping in my head. I haven't played it, but it kind of has that look to it. Just like a drier climate. So we're saying Civilization games. So we're saying Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. Well, I kind of feel like Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines is sort of like Deus Ex Vampire Edition, but even then I like Deus Ex more, even though I like the concept more in Vampire the Masquerade. So we're saying Warcraft 3 for RPG real-time strategy campaign. Yeah, I guess. Let's see. Somebody's saying Bioshock was a little like Half-Life. Yeah, I guess for me a little bit like. Well, no, I guess it has sort of recaptured in a weird way Well, okay, I'll get into other stuff, but somebody's saying Jedi Knight games. Yeah, I don't know. Well, there's probably a good reason for that because they've kept the Star Wars license pretty locked down. Like only a few studios can ever get to touch it. It's my understanding. Yeah, I've heard it's like the polar opposite of Warhammer, where just anybody who wants a Warhammer license gets a Warhammer license. So, Painkiller. That's maybe. Well, yeah. I guess the Serious Sam series. I feel like both Painkiller and Serious Sam are kind of in like similar footing. Like I feel like Painkiller is better on average, but Serious Sam has better high points. Is kind of how I look at it. Somebody's saying Twisted Metal. Okay, we got thanks for the campaign. I'll stay at it, man. Like we're gonna get answers. We might get one answer from the UK in under 24 hours. We'll see. So I'm saying Kerbal Space Program. Again, I think it kind of. So I'm saying Painkiller is too mindless for them. Yeah, I will say that. I only like playing a few levels of Painkiller at a time. And after that, my brain's almost like starving for something with conversation or, dialogue and like having a story. So it kind of, I like both, but like, yeah, Painkiller does amplify that feeling in me. Yeah, yeah, but again, you kind of need games that have attempted to be that. And I feel like Painkiller, it might have had like a few attempts with it, but yeah. And again, Serious Sam is a series where like every one of the games, there's stuff I don't like about them, but again, the highs are so ridiculously high in almost all of them that it's just I can't help have a fondness for it. Yeah, so well, those are my answers. I don't have a lot of obvious ones because a lot of them, it's like nobody else picked up the mantle. And then somebody's asking me my preference in bread: white bread, whole grain, sourdough, potato bread. Well, I'm trying not to have too much bread because my skin tends to revolt now because who the hell knows what's going on with my body. But what? I mean, I like bread in general, though. You mentioned potato bread. I had some of that by accident not super long ago, and it made me like have a lot of energy, me like really irritable afterwards. And I kind of remember something similar happening years ago when I had what's called Płocki in Poland, which they're basically like hash browns combined with sort of flour to be kind of like a pancake. And so it makes me think like that combination of like white flour and potatoes just that like surges my blood sugar or something in a way that I really did not like. I got like really foul mood and fast too, like within like 10, 20 minutes. And I was just, so that messes with my body chemistry. So I don't want potato bread. But yeah, I mean, I'm not that picky on bread. I like bread, but probably shouldn't have much. And then the next thing for chocolate, they're asking favorite white chocolate, dark milk, or mint chocolate. Well, easily mint chocolate. I love mint chocolate, though I haven't had that I haven't had chocolate in like a year and a half or so. Ever since that article came out about how they did this study across like every major chocolate brand they could find, and all of them contained some levels of heavy metals. It was, let's see, it was either lead or cadmium that they found in them. Now, they were very trace amounts, but the point is, you know what? I don't like chocolate that much to eat lead and cadmium. So I'm assuming that's still the case, where I'm sure one chocolate bar isn't going to ruin your life, but if you're eating it regularly over years, I only want heavy metal in my music or, my media, not literally. So yeah, I might be off chocolate permanently because of that. I mean, unless they can really verify it doesn't have lead or cadmium in it. So let's see. And I'm sure there's other foods that are very problematic too, but at least I know about the chocolate one now. So let's see. Oh, well, while I'm scrolling for questions, somebody emailed me. Apparently, the success of the new Dune movie means that I think they've greenlit Rendezvous with Rama. So that could be pretty good, though, for movies. Though I'd be willing to bet money the music won't be as good as the game. So I'm sure they can do an awesome job of it, but I would be amazed if modern Hollywood could come out with a soundtrack that kind of rivals it, kind of rivals the game. Because no way, you know, it's because it's a combination of two things. One, I think, I mean, that's one of my top soundtracks for, Rama. But two is, the music I've heard from Hollywood tends to be very kind of conservative with the soundtrack. Like they're afraid to get too creative on like a lot of modern movies and too distinctive. And so I think that culture would kind of suppress it anyway, even if the composer is totally capable of making a fantastic soundtrack. I remember there was an article a few weeks ago, I put it on my Twitter, about how I think it was the composer for Final Fantasy VII was saying something similar that here, maybe I can find a quote on it. This is a good quote. Final Fantasy. He had a great quote. Well, it was something like trying to emulate Hollywood movie soundtracks is holding video game music back, he says. This is probably butchering his name. Well, the chat probably knows his name. Okay, well, I'm not good at speed reading while I'm doing this. But it was something like it's holding it back, and if you just try to emulate movie scores, then like the genre can't grow or something like that. And yeah, I think that's it in the chat. Nobuo Umatsu, or again, I'm probably butchering his name. Sorry, but yeah, I agree 100% because if you take like the average game from the '90s, let's say average big budget game from the '90s, and compare that soundtrack to the average big budget game now, I think it's going to be night and day. Which one on average is going to be more creative? Though thankfully, that's not true of indie games. Indie games can kick ass with their soundtracks. So it's good to know it's not being, there's the good music still coming, but not through the big mainstream channels. Well, there can be very good music coming out of mainstream games, but you're just going to see nowhere near the same kind of range or creativity that you used to in the industry out of big budget stuff. So, but yeah, okay. So I sidetracked myself. That wasn't even one of the questions. It was just while I was looking at more questions. I guess somebody's asking, like, with the Dream software, if I thought the RTX remix could help with that, to being able to insert itself into the pipeline. Yeah, maybe. I mean, it kind of sucks that it's proprietary with NVIDIA, but I mean, a lot of things that are proprietary with NVIDIA, AMD usually comes up with a more open solution down the road. Not everything, but yeah, look, anything that can just get into the games and just, well, I told you my dream software would be just, I play through the game, and then once I'm done with that, I can just spit that out to like port it to some sort of engine or something, try and restore as much of the environment as possible, and then I can go through it in VR or experience it that way, or people can mod it for whatever, There's a lot of games I'd like to do that to. Let's see. If somebody is saying, how does it feel to have YouTube subscriber count 340,000 folks enjoy watching your work? I don't know. I mean, it's like, I've said before, past a certain point, it just never even feels real. Because like here in the chat, it's like, well, I don't know, dozen people, maybe 20 or something like that. It's like, okay, that seems real enough. But, once it gets to just utterly massive numbers, it's like my brain just doesn't process it the same way. But I'm glad people like the videos. Sorry they're so delayed, but I think I have a pretty good excuse this time, at least. It has gone on longer than I wanted it to, but that's only because we've had so many inroads. So I was asking if I'd ever cover Dungeon Lords. I played some of Dungeon Lords, but I kind of gave up on it after a few hours. It was kind of feeling tedious. It's like it was a combination of like not bad gameplay, but it kind of was like overstaying its welcome is how it felt like. So let's see. Oh, okay. I guess I missed this one. They're saying when any legislation is proposed by the European Commission, I think including through a citizens' initiative, national governments have the right to formally express that they think the issue will be best addressed on a national level rather than an EU level. So if the European Citizens Initiative gets enough signatures and the EU member state says we believe that more prudent to deal with this at national level rather than EU level, do you have any response to that? Sure, if we can get some guarantees that will actually happen. I mean, if France and Germany want to ban the practice independently instead of having the EU do it as a whole, that still gets us to where we need to go. So, yeah, I mean, I'd be a little wary they're trying to, like, kind of hijack and undermine it. And so I kind of want some assurances, but I mean, this seems like something like an EU could at least give a directive on that the national agencies could use as a model for them. But yeah, anything that gets us to the finish line, I'm not picky on the how, just the end result is what I'm after. So somebody's mentioned, have you heard of the website Is There Any Deal? Yeah, though I haven't messed with it in a long time. I usually just wait for sales. And actually last time I was so busy, though that wasn't the only reason, I missed the Steam sale by like an hour because daylight savings threw me off. Because there's this window of like around 3 weeks between where I am in Europe versus the United States, where daylight savings has happened in the United States, but it hasn't happened here. So I was thinking, oh, okay, I still have, Valve's located in Seattle. So, okay, I'm still 9 hours ahead of them. That's okay. I still have time to get the games I marked down. And then I realized, oh, wait, no, it's not 9 hours. It's 8 hours. And then I missed it. So just have to wait for the summer sale, I guess. Or, well, it was Steam or GOG, either. Those are usually, but yeah, if there's like a real specific game I was looking for, I might use that. But I tend to just kind of move with like the herd with the big sales. And I usually don't bother with the like hunting out games specifically, and just I try to just kind of stockpile when everything's cheap and then play them afterwards. So for I guess I forgot what I was gonna say. But it wasn't that important anyway. So I still need to play the Oddworld games. Somebody's asking about that. That's always one of those where I'm like sort of interested in it, but not like super interested in it. So I don't know. But I know it has a cult following for sure. Have you had any interesting encounters with wildlife on any of your runs, walks, or trips? And they're asking, remember you talking about encountering wild boar before? How did you survive such encounters? What's your general strategy, plan, method of engagement? What about before moving to Poland? Well, the boar, I just didn't try to get too close to them for the boar. The boars seem to have like good enough sense that like they understood that if I'm not trying to get close to them, they're keeping an eye on me, but they're not going to start problems. What was going on in my head though, because actually I had one where I was right next to a boar by accident, where I was walking in a path and a boar just jumped out from a bush. I think it was sleeping there, and I happened to wake it up. So the boar was like, ah, and it just surprised me because it was just right next to me. But it just tore off. In general, my strategy though is I'm thinking, okay, if this were to charge me, I'm looking at the nearest tree I could immediately kind of grab onto and lunge upward. Because even if it doesn't have branches, you can kind of like bear hug it and just kind of like shimmy up fast. It'll probably shred through your shirt, but you can do it. So, because I figure, okay, going up in a tree, that's a pretty foolproof solution against a boar. It's not going to climb it. For other animals, I've seen a few foxes. They're usually at a distance here. I mean, it's not that notable, but it's sort of exotic for me in that I've sometimes seen squirrels here, but squirrels here are different than what I'm used to in the United States, because in the United States, I'm used to gray squirrels with round ears, but here they're red and have like the little hair spikes on the ears. I think a few months ago I saw a badger for the first time, like in person. Let's see, what else have I seen here? I mean, there's birds I see all the time. Deer I see here every now and then, but that was the case in USA also. What other animals? I've seen snakes once or twice, but they're usually pretty small here. That was different in USA. In USA, I inadvertently walked right by a rattlesnake, and I only realized it because after I did that, I heard like the rattle start going. Like, so thankfully it wasn't in the mood to bite me, because I was a little deep in the woods when that happened too. So that left an impression on me. Let's see, in USA, sometimes when I go for a run, I would encounter skunks, and I'd have to like rethink my entire running route if they were kind of blocking the road, because I didn't want to deal with them. Let's see, it was usually just mostly deer in USA. This was mostly in Virginia. Oh yeah, well I guess, yeah, if I go to the pond, I've seen, yeah, during some parts of the season, I've seen just tons of frogs here, just to the point where it's like almost a liability, where I have to just really look where I'm going, just to not to be stepping on them just casually. Let's see. I'm just probably more animals. It's nothing. Well, when we did visit Warsaw to get my passport kind of replaced, we went to this sort of like sort of fancy palace or building that was probably there from the 1700s or something, and in there they had some peacocks kind of walking around. But yeah, I guess I don't have like a lot of recent animal stories. I mean, I just kind of see them and they take off or stare at me, and that's about it, you know. Let's see. Oh yeah, that's right. I think I did see rabbits here. I can't remember. Yeah, I did see rabbits or hares. I forget the difference. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, more questions. Let's see. Well, this one I've answered before, but I can do it again. Oh, okay. No, let's see. Yeah, okay. If you could tell your younger self anything you know now, what would it be? Back in 2009, when you were toying with the idea of buying a couple Radeons and Crossfire as an excuse to run games faster, that you could mine Bitcoin with them as an excuse to justify it, I'd say, yeah, go ahead and do that and just save the Bitcoin. Yeah, just sit on it. Just eat the cost on it. It's worth it. Because back then you could probably mine quite a bit of Bitcoin on just like a Radeon card. I remember they were better than NVIDIA cards at the time. So yeah, that seems like the obvious one, because I wasn't super serious about it, but I was just, talking about it a little bit. It's the sort of thing, like if I had a friend who was like super on board and like nudging me for it, I might have gone for it, but I didn't. So it was just kind of like an idle thought, that just like, yeah, maybe. And the thing is, I wasn't even that interested in the crypto. I just kind of want an excuse for a faster video card. So, oh, I didn't see this one. If you had to fight one video game final boss in real life, who would you choose and why? That's a great question. I think I would want one that like it's kind of chaotic and zany and maybe like jumps around a lot, because I think that would make it like, because if I have to do it myself, I don't want it to be too lame, but I want it to be interesting too. So I'm trying to think of like what a good boss like that, because there's like a million bosses that could kill you, but you occasionally get some ones that are like real zany and wacky. Also, I can't think of, trying to think some off the top of my head. Unfortunately, I didn't see that question earlier, so I'm having to think on the fly. Maybe people have some suggestions. Like maybe there's something in like the Simpsons arcade game that would make a good boss, like one of the clowns, or let's see, what are some other good bosses? Because I know there's tons like this, but I'm just, I don't know. It's, if somebody's saying the massive baby from Carnival, no, I wouldn't want that. But let's see, what are some of the, I don't know. Carnival bosses are going to get you killed. Though I guess there is that. Well, I guess you could have that one that was like the two joined twins upside down. That one I could take. I could try to take that one on. But again, I think I'd prefer more of a brawl boss, or one that's, rather than ones that they're bringing out the knives or the guns or stuff like that. Yeah, sorry, that's a great question. I just didn't see it earlier. Oh, someone's saying Bowser's kids. Yeah, maybe you could take on one of the Koopas, because they have the spiked shell, but they're jumping all around. You could probably dodge them and get some punches. So yeah, that'd be a good challenge. One of Bowser's kids. The Desert Maze Man. I don't know that one, or else I'm not sure what it's in reference to. I haven't played Pikmin, I'm afraid. So I was referring to that. But yeah, I'll have to think about that. That's a good question. So yeah, something that's just kind of like wild and nuts, but isn't like maximum dangerous, and I'd have a reasonable chance of winning with just kind of basic combat or agility. Yeah, agility especially. So I could probably handle stuff where I have to dodge attacks and stuff like that. So that would go more to my strengths than just like raw fighting. Yeah. Oh yeah, this was a decent. I made some notes on this one. Okay. You are now the dictator of the world. Name a few laws you would want to put into place and how you think they could be meaningfully enforced. Well, I don't know if it would be as direct as that. It's more like, because that would be incredibly complicated and you have to work out a lot of logistics. But I think it would have just like certain initiatives I'd want done. I guess it's kind of not obvious, but one that would be way up there would be restructure the economy to like include ecological sustainability, because we don't do that at all now. And just to give you just a tiny example of what I mean, I've looked it up, and they've done estimates that 1 barrel of oil has the same amount of energy as about 25,000 hours of hard human labor. And they say, which is 12 and a half years of work. And at $20 an hour, that's about $500,000 of labor per barrel. So that means 1 barrel of oil, if we had to replace it in human energy, would be about $500,000. Our current economy prices that at about $87 as of today. So that shows you how incredibly far off we are with economic considerations. Because oil is large. I mean, the whole reason we have civilization at this level today is because of oil and other fossil fuels. because that's the reason you have like the exponential growth since about like the mid 1800s and stuff like that. But so that shows you just like it's almost like madness the way we're running it right now. So instead of the now you wouldn't be able to do that all at once because we're so dependent on it. So you'd have to figure out ways to kind of scale it down rapidly. But again, that's just one example. So it's 500,000. Ah, man, I had a thought, I lost it. But yeah, so I think it was like what 5,700% or 5,400% higher or lower than it should be. Oh yeah, that was it. With oil, it's kind of a one-shot use thing. Now, we can produce similar oil through agriculture, but not nearly at the same rate, and there's energy going into it, so it's more lossy. And plus, that competes with existing farmland for food. Not all of it, but a lot of it. So the real number is probably less than 500,000, but it's not going to be a lot less than 500,000. But that's still just like a complete world apart from $80 or $90. So it's, yeah, like to me, that strikes me as like a crisis in the making on every level. And that's just for oil. There's other things where, we're depleting the oceans of fish or, wiping out rainforest or other forests that are basically making species go extinct and stuff like that. And that all comes around eventually. So that would be a high priority. Next one is also kind of related to the environment. I would say treat environmental pollution like the crimes that they are. Because typically when there's a lot of environmental pollution, even when it's intentional, usually it's just a slap on the wrist fine for the company. Whereas, I think I originally thought like if you're putting something super toxic into the water, like I think C8 is one of those compounds where that's gonna like give people all kinds of diseases or cancer, take time off their lifespan. I thought you should count for every person that affects downstream, that should be a count of attempted murder. However, I talked to someone kind of convinced me I'm not going far enough with that because if you can pretty much, you don't know how much you're taking off the end of their life, but you know that the more people are exposed to it, the shorter their lifespan gets for various reasons. Someone convinced me that no, that actually, it shouldn't even be attempted murder. It seems weird, but it should be actually murder. Because if you go into a retirement home, and let's say some guy is like 98 years old, and some psycho kills him, well, that's murder. Even though he probably didn't have a whole lot of years left, you still kill them. So logically, it's the same principle. However, if the person's still walking around, maybe there's some part of the law that covers that more specifically. Like I know, like some places have what are called mayhem charges. If you like don't kill somebody, but you permanently disfigure them, that's a very serious charge. I would treat environmental pollution like that. Stuff where, you are directly harming people's health. And, and for just kind of treat it all the way down where, okay, if this was negligence, fine, then you treat it like manslaughter. But if it's intentional, no, you treat it like murder. And I think that would be absolutely essential just to get anything close to sane laws and behavior on how we're treating the environment. And each other, this is because it affects us that, they're doing this to other people. And the other initiatives I have would be eradicate homelessness, and it just, again, that gets complicated, but if that's your mandate, you can find a way, and by eradicate, this does not apply to people who want to be nomads. So if you want to do the easy rider thing and just live off your motorcycle, fine, whatever. You can do that for as long as you want. But if you do decide you eventually want a place to live, that could be guaranteed on some level, Same for hunger. You know, again, it gets very complicated how you get there, but if that's the mandate, you can make that happen eventually. And again, it's not enforced, if somebody wants to fast or not eat, fine, and they wouldn't necessarily have to eat the food that's readily available to them. They could buy nicer food still, but see, the thing is with all these things, you can't just do one thing and then everything's fine. Because like, let's take the hunger one. Let's say a certain level of, we kind of mandate that in agriculture, we get to have these yields so like everybody can be fed. But, and people are kind of guaranteed food. Well, that alone will put like tons of restaurants out of business right there. So you need to have a plan for making sure those people are okay. And then you have to figure out how you implement that. And it kind of cascades. So by doing any one of these things, in order to do it right, you probably have to do like 50 other things at the same time. So that's why I'm just talking about like mandates rather than like, okay, I would do exactly this step and then everything's fine, because it wouldn't work like that. This would turn everything upside down, what I'm talking about. And I guess two others I had were, for global warming, I don't know if this would be enough, but I think if I was dictator of the world, we could give it a shot and it might work. Have massive algae-based carbon capture plants. So not this technology where they're trying to take it straight out of the air, but just where you're basically farming algae like there's no tomorrow. And as soon as you grow it, you take it out, kind of preserve it so it doesn't like keep emitting carbon, and then just start the next batch. And you could have facilities of those just like all over every coastline pretty much. And just if you kind of treated it like, the way we treated stuff like during World War II, and just this is just a global effort to support this, that might actually start bringing back down the carbon levels to, pre-industrial age over time. Or it might not. I don't know if it's too far gone that wouldn't be enough. But from what I've heard, that's our best option short of blotting out the sun in the sky. And that's way more problematic. And I wouldn't want to do that if I had a choice. So, what? And another thing is like power is one of those things that we could have medium long-term solutions. I think we could do a lot more with. For really long-term solutions, I don't know. We might have to just scale down. But for the medium term, the best that I've heard, someone might have much better information than I would say have an initiative to try to get thorium reactors much more online. I've heard that might be like the best sort of underutilized technology we have today to get a lot more power going. Also, I'd at least want to like have more. I did some research on it, and apparently it's pretty underdeveloped also, because it kind of hit me that like wave power from the oceans seems like that has an awful lot of potential if we could figure out how to harness it properly, because that's renewable energy that solve stuff that wind and solar have problems with, because your baseline is going to be very predictable and does mostly go 24 hours a day in most areas. The waves are always splashing around. I mean, I've heard there's tidal power too, but I've heard that's might not be as much, but I can see where it could be tricky to kind of capture that. And apparently we're decades behind on research on that. So that seems like an obvious place to at least look into more of it. But let's see. I don't know. Let's see. So I was saying blotting out the sun to save the earth. Well, that's the last resort. See, okay, for the blotting out the sun, that's not something I would want to do. I would rather have the algae plants. But if that wasn't enough, see, I'm not talking about See, that's talking about areas where, like, remember, I think it was like last year or year before, like it got so hot in India, it basically like ruined wheat crops. Or I think there was a report last year on how it was getting so hot in the Amazon that a lot of plants in the rainforest were basically losing the ability to do photosynthesis. And it was causing them basically to die out because it's so hot there. See, if it becomes if it becomes a situation of that and that line where it's just too hot for things to live and that starts spreading and it starts affecting like global crop yields, well, then you kind of do have to think about the blotting out the sun. I mean, yeah, it wouldn't make it dark. It would just make it like slightly less intense. The problem there is you need there could be unforeseen environmental consequences of that. And plus the thing that what most of the literature on this has touted for this is a terrible idea, which is sulfur dioxide, because that's basically a prime ingredient of acid rain. So yeah, no, I would not be in favor of that. That would be terrible environmentally. So yeah, but even then, that's not my first pick. That's just if it just keeps getting out of control no matter what we do, and we're already on that path. Like I see, I'm just talking about this dream scenario where we could take this problem seriously. We're not doing that at all. So I think that's going to be I think the longer time goes on, that's going to be the only option on the table, because we won't have taken anything else seriously. Whereas at least that buys us time. So it's saying no, blotting out the sun is unacceptable and insane. Okay, well, fine. What's the alternative? I'll keep looking at the rest of the questions while you think about it. What's the alternative? Let's say half the planet is too hot for anything to live, and our food production is down 70%. What's the solution? And it's still getting hotter. I mean, slowly, but So we'll see what they say. It's Q Nemo saying it's still insane. I mean, I agree it's less than ideal, but I mean, if it's that or cooking the earth, that seems like a better option. So, yeah, somebody said crazy situation, crazy measures. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I mean, I say blotting out the sun. I think the official term is geoengineering. All right, I'll look at some more questions. I'll try to look to come back to that though, to see what he says for the alternative. Yeah, well, actually, coming back to the game initiative, I've had some people, not many, but a few kind of vocal people being against it. Saying that they're against this because I'm trying to get government involved. I'm thinking, what's the alternative at this point? We have nothing to lose, on this. If they're destroying games and they're increasing the rate they're destroying games, to me, that's the worst thing that can happen to gaming. So, I was, okay. And Q Nemo says, the allergy proposal seems solid. If you need shadow so much, you can create shadow locally on the ground. Okay. Well, so we're actually not in disagreement. You're just, it sounds like you don't want to think about if the allergy thing didn't work, is what we're talking about. So, because that's not my go-to solution, blot out the sun. That's if literally everything else fails, would be the option. I would want to try the allergy thing first, because if that was deployed on an utterly massive scale, that might work. Maybe. Maybe an ecologist could probably come in and say, yeah, it might, or say, no, Ross, it won't because of X, Y, and Z, and give details. So it could be either way. But that one struck me as not being hopeless from what I learned about it. So a lot of other measures strike me as hopeless. It's like, the analogy I make is like showing up to a fire with a cup of water. Yes, it technically does something, and no, it doesn't change the outcome at all. So yeah, we're not actually, I think we're not actually in disagreement, Q Nemo. It just, at least for the first steps. So, Let's see. Okay, next question. Regarding video music streaming, do you think it will come to a point within the upcoming 10 years where owning the media locally will get an upswing? Possible reason, too many services to pick from and their inconsistency of keeping the media available. Yeah, it could be. I mean, for me, it kind of never went out of style, but I mean, put it like this. If records are making a comeback, I've heard about, which I was never that interested to begin with, then for sure this would. I mean, it's because this is like from a practical standpoint. I mean, yeah, there's some shows you can't even watch other than like old copies somebody recorded on a VCR back in the early 90s or something, you know? So, yeah, no, I think there's probably going to be a growing awareness the more stuff that gets shut down. Do you have any tips for organizing and backing up your long-term files, like important documents, dev files, media, etc.? Not particularly great ones, especially for organizing. I mean, I usually just kind of have broad folders that are referring to what it is. You know, like, okay, say for movies, I might have like a comedies folder or adventure folder or animated folder or something like that. Horror, and put stuff in there. If they hit multiple categories, I just try to pick one. There's probably better methods. I guess my best one is probably with games, where I use Launchbox. It looks very similar to the games list on the website on cursefarms.com, where I have a list of screenshots, and I can sort it by year. I can sort it by genre. And, you know, I can hide entries that I've played. I like that. So I can just browse through that and think like, oh, this all look pretty cool. Here, I'm going to try this one. And I swear every single time I look at it, I get kind of excited about games to play. Like, I really think having like that screenshot of like a representative screenshot of the game and just like having a list of everything you have, it gets me interested in it. For backing up, I mean, there's the usual tips. Have something redundant. Ideally, have something off-site, but that can get kind of pricey, depending on how much data you have. So, but I guess like the most important stuff, try to have it in a file locker or something. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out like a good off-site solution for like a lot of abandonware, things like that, or music. But yeah, I don't have particularly like great insight, but just to have backups. Somebody's asking if I played Control or Alan Wake 2. I've played Control. Alan Wake 2 I might not play for a while. That actually came up in another interview I did where, yeah, I think that might be the most graphically demanding game at the moment. I'm not sure. It's certainly one of the contenders, so I don't think I'm going to be running that anytime soon. And plus, even then, I tend to wait for until games are cheap. But yeah, Control is kind of a mix. Like, I don't know. It started off pretty good, and the gameplay was all right. I remember it getting kind of bullet spongy, but then maybe I was able to fix that with some upgrades. I forget. I guess what I didn't like about... Well, there are two things I didn't really like about Control. I mean, I didn't hate it or anything, but one is that I do like the sort of like abstract architecture, you know, with like you're going sort of a cube room and stairs that go, but the particular way they had it didn't really click with me. And the other thing was that I like the mystery element to it, and I don't think they had to explain everything, but it just kind of felt like they explained almost nothing. Or they would explain details, but then nothing fundamental about what's going on. Like, what is this alternate reality? It just kind of felt like, okay, let's throw some new weird stuff up. And you can make something entertaining like that, but it just kind of felt like the same thing over and over again with like the new weird thing. It's like, okay, well, it's more of what we've already seen. Okay, it's more of what we already seen, but where is this going? It kind of felt like mostly nowhere to me, but I don't I mean, it wasn't bad. It was just wasn't really clicking with me. It was probably what it might actually be my like least favorite of the Remedy games. Like actually, I think last year I finally got to play Quantum Break. Even though the performance was kind of rough, I liked that one a lot more. Like I thought the story was more interesting. The levels sort of flowed better for me. But well, okay, no, I hated those ones where you're doing where like a bridge is collapsing, but then it's frozen in time, and you have to jump from one spot to the other, and the jumping mechanics aren't that great. Yeah, I hated those parts, but the rest of it I enjoyed. And I kind of like the insertion of the live action stuff, although I feel like the live action stuff didn't really add that much to the story. All the best story stuff was like in the game itself. So, but yeah, that one kind of the story kind of felt like it could have used a little more, but it wasn't. It had good parts too. Yeah. But yeah, I haven't played Alan Wake 2. A bunch of people say it's great. I'm sure I'll play it eventually, but man, that's going to be a demanding game. So. Oh, they're saying, yeah, have I seen the Mania Planet forum post but from a Ubisoft rep saying Trackmania's 2020 subscription model wasn't a subscription model, but a game you bought multiple times? Yeah, I did a Dead Game News on that, I think. Where I covered that as... I think it's the one where I had Watch Dogs footage. I'm not sure. Like I forget which title it was, but... Oh, they later backpedaled to say it was a subscription, but I think it very clearly shows what their idea of buying actually is. You know what? I don't care what Ubisoft's opinion of buying is. I care what all governments that don't have clearly defined rules, what their opinion of what buying means. So France, Germany, oh shoot, I forgot an announcement. Oh well. Well, I'll just do it now anyway. We may have a new option for Portugal. Somebody has been reaching out to me, and there's a petition option for them, and they sounds like they might be willing to spearhead it. So if I can build up some contacts, yeah, there might be a Portugal option later. So we'll see. But yeah, so I kind of don't care what Ubisoft's calling this or whatever. It's like I just want games to stop being destroyed. It really is that simple. And if they do that, then they can just do any sort of sleazy marketing they want. Other people can talk about that, and I'll just avoid it if I think it sounds crappy and I can deal with that. Whereas, so that's the problem about killing games, is that it affects games you like too. So it's like you can't. So if you don't buy it, then you don't get the game, and if you buy it, then you don't get to keep the game. So it's like it removes options, Let's see. Oh yeah, and this will probably come up again. I guess I should have mentioned in the last video, but just because it does keep coming up, I've heard people talk about how this is the wrong approach. You should boycott it. If I thought that had any chance of working, of course I would try it. I feel like boycotts in games have a 0% success rate. In fact, they very consistently never work. Because there have been many boycotts. I've never seen a successful boycott of a game where the gameplay was fun. So in other words, if the game is enjoyable, but it has like this really anti-consumer measures thrown into it, I've never seen that be successfully boycotted, ever, on anything. So to me, that's a confirmed dead end. So at least everything I'm doing has never been tried. So we may have some dead ends. In fact, with 11 approaches, we probably will, but they're not. If they've never been tried, then that's at least in the realm of maybe. So, let's see. I mean, I get the concept of a boycott. It's just that this is the difference between theory and practice. in practice, I have never seen it work in games if the game is enjoyable. And if all the games that did this weren't enjoyable and they're all terrible, then I wouldn't even be doing this, because then it wouldn't be really much of a problem for me. So, when are you getting a Freeman's Mind marathon? I'm afraid not soon. As soon as I have free time, I'm going to, well, I'd love to have a break, but I'm going to kind of finish off this side video I was doing and then finish off the game dungeon I've been working on earlier. That's what was up next. I'll think about Freeman's Mind push later. It's just, this has just been consuming everything. So, okay, I may start skipping some questions. Let's see. Okay, I'll answer this. Do you think that your experience with machinima influenced your feelings on the destruction of artistic effort by game companies? Actually, no. I came up in one of these interviews I've had. This practice with the game being shut down has actually bothered me before I was even aware of any game shutdowns. It just bothered me when I first heard of online-only games, because then that was the obvious conclusion to me. Like, well, wait a minute, what if they stop hosting that? Then the game's destroyed? Like, and these were even for games I hadn't even played. Like, I think the first one that really landed with me was EverQuest, and I still haven't even played EverQuest. And ironically, that's still up. But but from what I heard about it, it sounded kind of amazing. So I was thinking, like, the thought of that being destroyed, just conceptually, just bothered me. So this goes way back with me. But so yeah, the Machinima didn't really influence that. I'd say the biggest thing Machinima influenced was that they can make up what they're doing there, you know, or I had no idea. Like, some things could be run so incompetently. I mean, like, not like rushing to get me out there, then not having, I don't even remember how long it was now. Was it 3 months or something? Not having a computer I could work at for months. Then why rush me out there? You know, I admit that I wasn't expecting that at Machinima. What's the most logical yet difficult point-and-click adventure game you've ever played? I don't know. I have to think about it. I mean, the one I've beaten would probably be Still Life. But it was tricky. They had good puzzles. Yes, they're mentioning Riven, but I mean, Riven, okay, I might be misremembering details, but Riven kind of involves also like having to like revisit some locations and expecting something to be different, where like, I mean, like in Myst and Riven, like you pull some switch, you have no idea what that did. And then it could be like halfway across the island or something that impacted. To me, that's not so logic. I mean, yeah, there's some logic to it, but that's like too trial and error for what I like, so. But I remember some of that in Riven, but maybe memories of other Cyan games could be bleeding together. So I need to catch up on those. I haven't played, I've played Myst and I've played Riven and I've only played a little bit of Myst 3. So there's plenty for me to catch up on. Okay, what video game could Uwe Boll adapt well? And they say Duke Nukem. He could give Duke Nukem a shot. I wouldn't call it a good movie, but to me, Uwe Boll's best movie that I've seen is Postal. Like, it kind of, like, there are genuinely funny parts in the movie. So I think Uwe Boll might have missed his calling in doing all this action and game adaptation stuff instead of doing comedy. He might actually have talent for it. It could be he's just been in the wrong genre this whole time. You know, so I think there were multiple parts of the Postal movie that made me laugh. So it's, again, it needed some work, but however, it wasn't that far off from the tone of Postal 2 and onward anyway. So Like I think I would want to make a different kind of Postal movie if I was doing it, but I would want like sort of half Postal 2, half kind of like the movie Falling Down. So not quite as zany as Postal 2, but more humor than Postal 1, Uh, but no, it's from what I remember, it was fairly representative. It just, I think what it is parts of it, although that could be said of the games also, part of it felt kind of forced to me, but there were other parts that just fit right in and were hilarious. So yeah, if Uwe Boll was doing Duke Nukem, I could see that going either way. It could be easily a cult classic, or it could just be like, all right, this got stupid. Like, so it's, yeah. I think Uwe Boll may have missed some of his potential of doing comedy. Let's see. Oh, they're asking what I think about battles. I still need to play the Battlezone games. They look like something I would like. I just haven't gotten around to them. Yeah, I think they did like a remaster of the original, didn't they? Like, was it like 98 Redux or something like that? So saying, do I have to collect any physical media? Or do I have any physical copies I've hung on to? Yeah, I've hung on to several. I basically hung on to my Redbook audio game discs. So ones that I don't even know what the process is now, like to get like a perfect rip of the audio and to copy the game data. I'm not sure what the best software for that is. Because there's good because you have exact audio copy for ripping audio or making a copy. And then you have other stuff for game data. But combined, I'm not sure what the best is. So I kept all of those. Probably, I don't really collect physical media now just because I haven't had the space. And plus, digital can be more convenient. And when I say digital, I mean I'm also referring to just having all the install files or something just on a hard drive here, like, yeah, there's my digital media. So, because I can copy that elsewhere, so. The digital media I can claim. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, I think I said before, I think the oldest disc I still have would be for Stellar 7. Although I bought that much later, like early 2000s or something, because that has Redbook audio on it. And getting the audio is kind of rare for it. And music's not bad. It needs some stereo mixing help, but it's pretty good. If you had to pick any of the hell jobs you've worked in the past and do it for the rest of your life, what would it be? Yeah, I had to think. I think I'd have to go with the job where I was laying bug traps in the forest for the entomology department, because that job wasn't so bad. It was just the ticks that were the problem. So what I would do is I think I would just have to bite the bullet and just get like a custom made suit for me that, I mean, it wouldn't be airtight, but it would be basically like bug proof. So there'd be like a really fine mesh or like multiple layers of it that'd be like scratch resistant. So I would just suit up like a beekeeper would and just go and do the traps that way for like the whole duration and just get used to some of the heat. Because like out of the hell jobs I did, I think that one would wear me down mentally the least. Because it was just the ticks that were the problem. So yeah, wearing a hot suit every day wouldn't be great either, but then, I could kind of like decontaminate afterwards and massively reduce my chance of having ticks on me. Because the other jobs, like the security guard stuff would just drive me like insane, just standing around doing nothing. The tech support jobs, where I just never get a break and it's just all nonstop doing it and there's time pressure, that would wear me down a lot faster. Oh yeah, the kitchen steward where I wasn't getting enough sleep, that would not be great. Though I think at the time they were planning to get me shifts where I wasn't working 15 hours a day, but they were a little too slow with that for me. So yeah, maybe that would have been scaled back to 12 hours a day. But honestly, that might still be second, because it was, if I could sleep, it still sucked. And but I'm just washing dishes. It's not like there's this massive urgency. It's just kind of like, all right, yeah. Uh, yeah, so I think I think the entomology department, if I had to choose one of my existing held jobs, because I can mitigate that the most. And wandering around in the forest all day, that would not be the worst job for me. So, I mean, I wouldn't want to do it as long as I did every day, but not the worst, not the worst job. Okay. Yeah, someone's asking about play sessions in the future. I mean, maybe. I'd love to have just play a game at all. I've been pretty busy. Have your parents reacted to your campaign and news it's garnered? Slightly. I mean, I mentioned that, it's like, well, I've had some news and saying, oh, okay, well, you can send us a link. They'll show relatives. And they seem to kind of not care, but that's fine. Whatever. Yeah. Skipping a few more. Yeah, sorry, the movie's at a complete standstill since from the campaign. I was hoping to have been finishing up the other videos and starting around the movie either now or last month. This campaign derailed all of that. So, look, better late than never is becoming like the story of my life. So, I didn't pick this. Ubisoft did with the timing. Let's see. If the law passes, will we be able to get the crew back? Will the law force Ubisoft to add offline modes to other the crew games and online only games in general? It's difficult to say. Like, okay, the safe option is this is mostly going to be protecting future games. But there's multiple routes on all of this stuff where it's not impossible this could actually bring the crew back. That said, I think our odds are better going through what I would call less legal means. There's a Discord, the Crew Unlimited. They're making some claims that they seem to be pretty confident they might be able to get a server emulator going. So that would honestly be the best of both worlds. To have all this paperwork done and being processed, and then the underground version of the crew comes back, because then that's win-win for us. But again, it's kind of two different. It's kind of two different things. But but if they aren't successful, it gets complicated. And I can't say for certain, but it's not a clear like yes or no. I'll say that for the crew for bringing it back purely through the legal means. It can involve a lot of things. Like if they were found to have a penalty, but this would if patching it would severely lessen the penalty, that sort of thing. I could see them doing it. Or well, okay, I don't want to get into all the details on it now, but that's the best I have for you at the moment. It's more about trying to stop this practice, period. So. Let's see. Okay, they're talking about Need for Speed World coming back. Yeah, well, EA, I swear, it's like they don't care when the game goes down and they don't care when it comes back up. Ubisoft, I'm kind of getting the impression they care and they don't want this game coming back. But, well, we'll see, Okay, a few questions I answered. Someone's asking the process of making a Game Dungeon episode. Do you gather footage and take notes as you play them and write and edit after? Or is the process more complicated than that? It depends. It's usually the former, but sometimes if it's a game I've played before, I'll remember some things I'm definitely going to want to talk about, but it's always some component of me going in and just seeing what pops into my head as I'm playing it. Okay, more questions I answered. So I was asking if I played the Creatures series. I played some of one, and they're talking about that was kind of like an AI kind of tech simulation thing. Yeah, it was interesting. It's like, that's one of those games where I feel like if I had less games to play, I probably would kind of go through all of it. But as it stands, I probably just watch a playthrough of it. It's not quite my kind of gameplay, but it was kind of interesting. Creatures. Okay, well, this is a question worth bringing up. They're saying, do you think that people who want to preserve the game should learn how to send the message without attacking to keep projects safe from being branded pro-piracy at some point? Well, again, I can't be responsible for what everyone on the internet says. So officially, for the Stop Killing Games campaign, our stance is not supporting piracy at all, and it's laser focused and just trying to stop companies from destroying the games. And on the contrary, people pirate games for different reasons. This would actually eliminate a whole segment of pirates if what we propose would pass, because some pirates do pirate the game to preserve it. Well, if it's not, if they know the game's going to be safe, that reduces the incentive to pirate the game. Because, I was saying earlier how, sometimes the games come back, where they reverse engineer the server emulators. However, those tend to be the exception more than the rule. And I'm not even sure if that meets the normal definition of piracy, because every time that happens, the game's never for sale. Like there are no lost sales on a game you're not selling and don't intend to sell again. So it's like, maybe that still is technically piracy, but I don't know, it gets weird. But and also with all, like I said in the video, nothing we're proposing would interfere with any business practices while the game's being supported. So if they want to put DRM on it or use online only as an anti-piracy, that's fine. I'm not trying to stop that. Obviously, it's nicer for the player when they don't do that. And, I personally prefer when they don't do that. But I can live with them doing that if they feel like that's really necessary for their sales, as long as the game isn't destroyed. So speaking of, nothing about what we're focusing on endorses piracy, really. It's just, we want games to not be destroyed. Now, obviously that creates kind of a mess for games that there are literally no other way to get it. But, that's with, like I said, like with abandonware sites, well, first off, that's outside the scope of what we're focusing on. So nothing with the law is trying to encourage that or dismiss it either way. We just want games to stop. We just want publishers to stop destroying games. Any way we get there, legally. We're trying to do legal efforts because things like piracy don't work for this, largely. So it's kind of like an independent thing. But no, what I was going to say is, like, a lot of abandonware sites, what they usually do is, technically, I think they're in violation of the law. However, the reason a lot of these sites stay up for years and years and years is they put the game up, an old game that very few, has a following, but very few people kind of care about total. And then if they get complaints, like from a rights holder or a publisher, they take it right down and they put that as like a banned game that they can't put up. And for the rest of the games, they just stay up there. And to me, that's like, yeah, if you want to argue about that being illegal, that seems like such a benign way to handle what a complete mess copyright is for preservation, that they're just putting stuff up that literally the rights holders do not care about. So it's like, what's the problem there? But again, that's also outside the scope of what this campaign is about. So I'm just talking about like my own personal views for that part. So no, it is It is intentionally extremely narrow. So any people talking about, I just at the beginning talked about how that piracy thing says they don't understand the problem, so that's about the best. I should probably stop talking before I trip over my words, but that's how I look at it. So no, we're very, very narrow focus of what we're trying to accomplish. Would I be okay with making a Freeman's Mind reanimated collaboration? Maybe. It just depends on what they had in mind. So he's asking if there's a place where they can donate money towards the campaign. Well, if we're lucky, you're not going to need to because, okay, the big expenses are the Australian law firm push and the Brazilian lawsuit. And we may have a sponsor from both of those. So I prefer to not take people's money on that. I guess the only other thing might possibly be to reach out maybe to some like French or German YouTubers if we have like a real specific push we still need. But I've managed to do all of this basically just by throwing time at it. We haven't really needed the money. And the thing is, there might be some things we could use money for, but the thing is they become so much more expensive and they become much more iffy or precarious. Like I'm thinking one suggestion I've heard is like counter lobbyist in the European Union. Oh, damn, that was something else I forgot. We discovered a lobbying group for the European Union that might represent a real problem. Ubisoft is a part of it. It's called Videogameseurope.eu. And my guess is they would probably be against what we're doing. So we're trying to like brainstorm ways to kind of like counteract some of their influence. It's not like we don't want them to have a voice, but come on, they're destroying games. And to justify that, you can just use common sense. Destroying games people have bought. You can just use common sense to know that they're not going to be on the right side of this. Yeah, for example, CD Projekt or GOG was not in that group. Because I was thinking, okay, well, if they're in that group, then maybe they could be a voice of sanity. Nope. They had Tencent. I think Epic was in there. Well, you can check the site, videogameseurope.eu. So I don't know what we're going to do about that. But yeah, this entire campaign has almost exclusively been like tax dollars at work. So, if it required lots of money, I never would have gotten even close to where we have. So, for me personally, I have my donation page, accursefarms.com donations. But look, I'm transparent. That goes towards food and rent. So, don't feel obligated. I'm going to see this through either way. So you don't have to feel obligated about that if it's primarily for the Stop Killing Games thing. Okay, this is about oh yeah, they're talking about maybe I should make a video on the petitions. Yeah, I might. It's more work to do a good one. And plus we have a long time window on the UK, so it might not be that necessary right now. Australia might be a different situation though. I kind of want to see how the numbers go with just announcements and word of mouth. But yeah, I might make a video if I need to, and I don't know what's going on with Canada. So let's see. Yeah, there's that phrase again. Okay. Oh no, they're pushing back against saying what you feel about if buying isn't owning, then piracy isn't stealing. What you fail to understand is that this isn't about your cause specifically. This is an expression of frustration and protest. Yeah, but it's misguided. You're not pointing the right direction. That's what I mean. Look, it's like and plus, I almost see that as like a challenge to the industry to make stronger DRM. That's how I interpret that. So yeah, look, I'm frustrated also, but to me, being frustrated in the wrong direction has zero utility. I only want stuff that even has like a chance of pushing things in the right direction. That's what everything I'm doing is about. So, I mean, that's why the website itself is pretty utilitarian. It doesn't have all this extra stuff. No, it's just trying to get you to file complaints and sign petitions. Like I don't want people having the distractions. So, I mean, you should get a better slogan. I don't know where that one emerged from, but it's repeating and posting this meme is independent of whether one understands that it isn't applicable to cases like The Crew. It's not going to be applicable to the future or a lot of future games also. It's going to be applicable to companies that are doing more. It's going to be applicable to a higher percentage of companies that are doing the right thing, you know, that are like releasing games DRM free. It's easy to pirate those. So, I mean, it's, yeah, come up with a better slogan. No, I don't. Sorry, I think you're just, look, I've said this a long time before, like years back. There are legitimate reasons in my eyes, speaking personally, not for the movement, to pirate something. Protest is not one of them. I think pirating as protest is stupid because you're just sending the message, okay, we like your game, but you need to work even harder on your DRM to ensure that it can't be pirated. That's the message you're sending. So it's counterproductive. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't know what a good slogan is off the top of my head, but it's no, I mean, like I said earlier, it's not like you guys are the enemy. I just think I just think it's kind of ignorant what you're doing. And I'm obviously not going to change people's minds on it, but you know, hey, you know what? If you're able to sign petitions, file complaints, or get somebody else to do it, you're on the team as far as I'm concerned. So don't worry about that. Like, yeah, I mean, I guess this is a disagreement in strategy here, and I'm pushing very hard in my direction. So. Let's see. Yeah, I guess the other thing that sort of bugs me is it kind of has like a smug tone to it, whereas it feels kind of like sort of undeserved. Because I mean, not that the industry doesn't deserve like a lot of regulation, but that like, did you personally crack the games? I mean, even then, you're kind of like getting a free ride on the geniuses that are able to do this stuff. So it's like, well, you're kind of bragging about that you're able to do this, but you're not even doing the work on it. I'm not doing that kind of work. Like, so it's like it seems kind of like the wrong direction to take that for granted. And plus, piracy is not like some nice and safe process. People still try to bundle malware in with it and to find channels, and it can be problematic. Or I don't know if well, no, for some types of piracy, ISPs can crack down on you. So, I mean, look, I completely get finding a solution, but at the same time, it's like, you know, try to have some better perspective on it. And plus, when I'm seeing that phrase everywhere, it's under videos on The Crew. So you're saying, oh, it's not about The Crew, we're just putting it on videos on The Crew. It's like, well, what do you expect for the reaction then, you know? Okay. More comments. They're asking, how am I doing? How am I handling the stress? I would absolutely love a vacation. Do you still find time for yourself to decompress? Not besides exercise, no. It's basically been 13 to 14 hour days. I don't even know how long now. I want to say like at least a month and a half, because there's like always something to do. Now that said, it's been better since April 2nd because that had a hard deadline, and the work for that was a lot harder than what I've done since then. So the workload is easier, but there's just as much work, but it's easier work because it's just coordinating and organizing with emails and doing interviews and stuff like that, or public appearances. And that's easier than trying to research, okay, what does the law say in this country, which I can't read the language of, and then figure out, okay, well, they're referring to this agency. Does that cover games that are like this? That research was hell. That was more like doing taxes that aren't clearly defined. And then, of course, making the video with a deadline was a lot harder. But no, I realize what I've been doing right now has been kind of similar to what I was doing when I did the Freeman's Mind Crunch a long while back, where just every waking moment was either like exercise, sleep, basic chores, or just working on the videos. That said, that was worse because then I had a hard deadline I was trying to make, and it was bad. Whereas here, I'm at least getting full sleep, and it's seemingly endless, but I'm pretty sure I'm through the worst of it. So I am dying to like have free time again. But it's like every day I feel like this constant feeling like, yeah, I'm gonna bottleneck things if I do that, and it's gonna be bad and kind of set us back. So I'm trying to like hit the most essential stuff each time. That said, this past week, I've had about like 10 to 20 minutes at the end of the day that I usually just watch something. So that's better than before the video or the week after even. So it's easing up a little bit, but man, I am going a little batty from this. So, but I know I'm going to regret it if I don't push through now. So, okay, more questions. Are you concerned that your campaign might become mistaken for a meme fad where everyone talks about it, but no one treats it seriously or actually follows up on your message? Well, no, it's not happening because we've got a lot of complaints then. Even if it's like 1% of people, that can still be a lot for our purposes. So, yeah, no, that's fine. It's, hey, whatever gets us to the finish line, you know? I'm just gonna skip a few more. Let's see. Okay, I haven't heard of Stray Dogs Nostalgia Drive. But okay, he tries to 100% games with achievements. Yeah, achievements are something I've never really cared about. Like, I don't know, it's like either the game's fun or it's not, and to me achievement, the name achievements is ironic because you're playing a game, unless it's like towards some more tangible achievement, like let's say you're an esports player and you want to win a championship and get money. Okay, well then playing that game is an achievement that leads to it. But I think it's like almost trick you into you're doing something more valuable than you are or something. I don't know, like a psychological trick. Because I mean, don't get me wrong, I like games, but I kind of, for me, they're an escapism thing mostly. Or I'm making videos on them so other people can have something to enjoy from them, But it's like, I mean, I guess you can get some skills from games, but it's rare in my opinion. So, but yeah, if people like them, they like them. With me, it's like, don't tell me what I should be doing in the game. Just show me the game and we'll see what happens, Like, I don't like, it's like, what, you're grading me on this? Like, I just want to play the game, I don't like, when I play a game, I don't like being reminded it's a game. So I want to just kind of get like lost in it, Oh yeah, this is a question worth mentioning. Would this campaign extend to Hyperscape? It has a small dedicated community. Ubisoft neglected it and pulled devs off after Season 3 into Season 3 shutdown. Yes, well, okay, sort of. Well, I don't know because, okay, I don't know what the statute of limitation, if there is one, for these kinds of complaints is. So it sounds like Hyperscape was a while back that the shutdown happened. So maybe maybe the consumer agency isn't gonna care that much if it's been like years. That's one of the reasons this was so important to time it now, because the crew goes down, bam, all these complaints. So it's a natural progression of that. Whereas if they're old ones, and you can try. I mean, for any Ubisoft game, the process is almost identical. So you can use whatever I have on the site for a Ubisoft game and give it a shot. Though again, I think in Germany, if it's like in this case, it sounds like a clean kill. But in Germany, like, the multiplayer only might not work, or maybe it works in France or not. I'm not sure. Yeah, the simplicity of destroying this game helped. It worked to our favor. So, but yeah, you can try. I mean, because Ubisoft, it's still Ubisoft. It's not that it has to be Ubisoft specifically, but it's like once we get outside of France, I'm much more hesitant on what your options are. But if the company's in France, then sure, But again, they might not do much if it was like 3 years ago or something like that. So, okay, someone's asking a question I answered in the campaign video. Asking another question I answered. Some stuff I don't know about. Some stuff that seems pretty obvious. Okay, well, I'll mention this one. This person's upset that I'm not making the videos, and they're saying like, well, they understand I'm doing the campaign, but take some time out to do the videos, and they're kind of pissed about that. I'm frustrated by it too. However, this is a problem I've run into in the past where I'm not sure like what the best procedure is. But I think the only option is I basically have to be comfortable with burning some of my audience on this. And I actually have had some people unsubscribe. And I'm not happy about that, but it's triage. Because again, when I'm working 14 hours a day, every day for like a month and a half, and the big complaint is I'm not getting enough work done, it's like you have to, and the thing is, I get it from their perspective. I'm not. I think they don't really get it, what I'm doing, though. I mean, they say they do, but if the tables were turned, I was waiting on a video I really cared about, but then I learned that they were trying to stop the games, and this was like our only shot at it, and we actually had a chance this time, I'll be like, oh, okay, well then, yeah, that's just what we have to do. So I think the majority of my fan base gets it. This guy obviously didn't in Reddit, but hey, it's like I said in the video, I don't think I'm the ideal person to do this. But I mean, I feel like it was either I do this or it doesn't get done. And I would have felt like a hypocrite for the rest of my life if I wasn't doing this. So if this upsets you, sorry, but I'm still doing it. So that's the best I can tell you. I do, believe me, I absolutely want to get back to, well, what I really want is like a vacation, which I don't normally get, even without this. But after that, what I'd rather do is just get back to the fun videos and not this crap. I do not enjoy reading about the law and figuring things or doing this massive organization, hoping people come through. And I really don't enjoy any of this and wish it was somebody else doing it who did enjoy this or at least disliked it less. But like I said in the video, you're stuck with me, so sorry. I think the odds of having a video out for May are very high. I'll say that. Like a normal video, not this crap. So, okay, I guess I'll take live questions. You can do that at Ross Broadcast and answer what I can. Let's see, is there anything else? Yeah, just, I think I may have to, I've been using the free Gmail forever now, but it's getting pretty close to full. I think I'm going to have to upgrade to the paid version. Getting a lot of emails. Yeah, well, they're saying on the UK, less than a day since how much time has passed since the 10K threshold? Yeah, well, it passed the 10K threshold today. So if that's true literally, it should be tomorrow. But tomorrow's Sunday. This is on Saturday. I mean, and hey, they told us it would be a week for it to go up. It was over 4 weeks. So if they're telling us a day, I mean, I don't even care because the signing's still open. We can just keep having people sign more, try to get to 100K. To me, that's the target we really need to hit. So this is just kind of like a half victory so far in UK that we hit that. And even then, it might not even be a victory. They might just come out and politely tell us to go to hell. So we'll see. Do you think the world will be better off if the AAA entertainment industry, including games, TV, and movies, completely self-destructed? I think if that happened, I would see it being cyclical where they would implode and then some new players would come up and do the exact same tactics. So not really. Any teasers for when the next interview for the campaign is coming out? Well, coming out, I have no idea. I do have one with, you guys will know the name of it. It's the one it's the podcast Yahtzee's on now. It's like Second Life or something like that. I got invited to that one. So that one's set for Monday. I don't know if it's live though. So it's whenever they put it up. Well, and there's a smaller one. I unfortunately forgot the name of the guys that I'm doing tomorrow on that. So Windbreakers, maybe? Okay. What would you say is something you've learned in doing this campaign you wouldn't have expected when you were preparing for launching it? Well, I think, that you better submit petitions way in advance, like not 3 weeks. What are you doing? That's like you're not serious submitting a petition 3 weeks in advance. That's the biggest thing we screwed up on. Other things. Well, actually, I was surprised once or twice with volunteers. We had like some big arguments about stuff. I was actually surprised how well I was able to diffuse them some of the time. I mean, I'm sure there'd be some people that I would never work with, but I was surprised how that worked out. I guess, well, this shouldn't be a surprise and probably isn't for a lot of the viewers, but I underestimated the amount of time involved after getting the video. In fact, I honestly had tunnel vision when doing because I was originally focused on just getting the video out, finding the right agencies, getting the website up. And then I thought after that, okay, I could just kind of do some interviews and like kind of let everything fall into place like a machine that's rolling. And I realized, no, there's still a lot of other stuff I need to do. Though less and less as time goes on. So yeah, the longer this goes on, the less important I become to it, which is perfect. That's what I want. So all this stuff is in motion regardless of what happens to me. So, if someone else offered to take the leadership role in this campaign, would you accept this offer at that point if you knew you could trust them, or do you keep leading? Oh no, if I trusted them, sure. I mean, I'd have to trust them. So it's. Do you or have you ever slept with white noise? Yeah, like with fans running or stuff like that. I can usually fall asleep to that pretty quick. Or rain, Second Wind, okay. Second Life's the game. Why did I say that? And that's why I was mixing it up. Yeah, I mean, there's a chance the UK Parliament thing could still completely fail, but then we'll know. Okay, then there's no hope in the UK. We will never focus there again on it. So, or at least that's my attitude on this, because there was no opening through the agencies. So if there's no opening through popular vote and there's no opening through the agencies and government, I don't know where there is an opening there. So it'll be like the USA then. Have you seen Civi mentioning the campaign? Yeah, I left a comment under his. I said something like, I thanked them for mentioning it. And I said like, I'm sure I'm sure putting in even more crap to edit is exactly what you wanted to do because you had a lot already. Did you design the Stop Killing Games website? Not really. The guy who helped build it I explained what I was doing. So we sort of agreed on the divvying it up by location, and then I looked at it. I thought, okay, well, this looks all right. I can navigate this. It could be nicer looking. I know that making it look that Spartan wasn't actually the plan. It's just that it worked. We had time pressure. Important thing was getting people to the right places. So, well, they've contacted their local MP regarding the petition. So, great. Is that that's for Canada? Well, yeah. That we really need that is for Canada. I mean, though, hey, I mean, it won't hurt in UK, and if we're lucky, try again in a week for Australia. So. Who are your favorite actors that you know are consistently good with their performances? Bill Murray tends to always be good with his performance. What are some other good ones? I think Johnny Depp can be pretty good, like consistent. One of these people were like, regardless of the movie, they're always doing a good job. Geez, there's a lot of them, though my brain's kind of fried at the moment. Or some others. Gary Oldman, Willem Dafoe. Yeah, there's a lot of them though. I mean, it's. Have you seen or heard of other YouTubers bringing attention to it? Yeah, I've tried to comment as many as I've seen, and give them a thanks. And if people want to have interviews or appearances with me, they can. That's part of the job now with this. Let's see. How do you typically do physics research for Freeman's mind? Mr. Glanet's one of the big volunteers, and he's asking me questions in the chat here. I would just look up and that's the question I've answered before, but I would kind of look up terminology when I was trying to think of like something that to kind of refresh it as physics cred, or I'd think about a concept and try to research a little bit more on that. Or a few of them I knew of just by hearing about. Like I've heard like adherence to string theory can be like a little bit kind of dogmatic in the physics field, and there's not really the evidence there to suggest that's more concrete than maybe some other theories, that sort of thing. Yeah, that's why when they were mentioning string theory, when Mossman was mentioning string theory in the elevator, I was thinking, no, I'm going to have Freeman on the other side of this. So he's just like, he's giving her some respect because she's talking shop, but at the same time, it's just like, I was like, oh, you're one of those, like, but like he's dealt with this before. So somebody's saying he's wrong. Well, here in this like semi-low view YouTube, Twitch stream, we learned that string theory is correct. Okay. How did you manage to get the website available in so many languages? Do people help translate it? It's both machine translation and manual translation from volunteers. So we figured a half-broken translation was better than none for different languages, but. Okay, any more questions or? I should probably get back to work. Like, and I'll get this video up tomorrow, I think. I mean, just so we can hopefully get some armchair EU lawyers giving comments, giving their best arguments for why this practice might be illegal or violate existing EU directives. Is somebody asking something else? Surprised not to see Norway, Denmark, or Sweden on the list of countries. Well, we have rest of the EU. Okay, see, for Norway, well, Norway is out. Oh yeah, Norway is outside of the EU. So it gets muddier with Norway. I think it was one of those where with economic things, Norway is sort of like 1 foot in, 1 foot out with the EU policy. And it's like what I talked about in the video with the European Consumer Center, where that's kind of the default route to go through when you have problems with another EU nation. But in our case, it's like that was just a mess because at best, they're going to be sending it to the DGCCRF, which we're already, I mean, if they're not paying attention to this, then nothing we do will do that. So, but that's only if they decide it goes there. Most of them were saying, we don't know, and then it could just get caught in bureaucratic hell and not go anywhere. Or some of them could say, like, no, Ubisoft can do whatever it wants because of the license agreement. And then it's like you just put it in the trash, your whole complaint. So I'd rather have 100%, I'd rather have 100% delivery rate than a third delivery rate that's going to the exact same place. So that was the reason we didn't pursue it. Now, that said, Sweden might have enough clout with their consumer protection agency, kind of like Germany, where they can act on this, like even though this is in another country. But we just weren't able to get enough confirmations on that. Yeah, like if there's any angle you really think I'm missing, you can let me know. Not that I'm looking forward to having to put together an additional plan, but if it's a solid, maybe viable plan, we'll do it, so. And my wife's knocking on the door, so I should probably wrap this up. Let's see. How do you manage all the pressure? I don't know. I've cut sweets drastically, and I'm still exercising every day, so that helps. Yeah, and for Americans who don't own the crew, I'm sorry I don't have better options for you, but hey, maybe you can help with that that crowdsourcing research I was talking about with like getting a more up-to-date list of the dead games. Yeah, it is frustrating because most of my audience is American, but and I'm American, though I do own the crew, but even if I just had to go where the options were, it's less than ideal, but this could actually work is the way to look at it. So sorry you have to be a spectator on this. I get how frustrating it is, but it's the best I could come up with. You can thank some judge from 1999 on Pro CD versus Zeidenberg for where we are now in America on this. Yeah, how are you feeling and taking good care of it? I mean, I'm exercising. I'm feeling batty is what I'm doing, but the longer I can kind of stick with it, the more things kind of get completed. Like, that's a good example. Like with the UK, except for me doing more publicity on the UK, like, maybe doing some interviews or reaching out to UK YouTubers for them to give a mention, I consider myself done there. Like whatever happens, happens. I'm out of it now. I can just sort of amp the publicity a little more. So that's great. That's one thing down for me. And I'm trying to do that for like every route we're going. Just get to the point where, okay, I am done. Like there's nothing else I can do because this is already a train leaving the station. So great. I'm trying to check off all this stuff. And then whatever happens, happens. Though I'm obviously kind of staying on call for anything important. Especially if I'm talking to European Union members of Parliament. Members of EU Parliament. Yeah, that obviously gets a priority. So I'm very, very slowly trying to wind it down, but it keeps going. So I am warning you, I may have to take a few days off after I get to a sane point, but that could be a while. So, all right, let's see. I am getting full sleep, though, so that's something else. Most days. There's some have been so tense I didn't sleep the full amount because I would just be like too wired waking up thinking, oh my God, I have to do all this stuff. But Yeah, I'll probably will make making more videos probably is something I should be doing, and to do a good one, that can be one of the most time-consuming things I can do. But yeah, I'll get to it. I need to finish reaching out to more people first, though. All right, I think on that note, I better go. Plenty left to do. So, but we are through the. I'm through the worst of it. We'll see where it goes. We'll just see what happens. So, okay, I'll see you.